Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7. This is verse number 25, and we'll do a few more verses. Tad visrupam bhajatasu vipram tapasvinam tvastram athatma vatam Sabajitarthan savidasvatevo Yadi shamishyadhvam utasya karma Tad vishvarupam bhajatasu vipram Tapasvinam tvastram matamavantam Sabhajitorthan savidasya swatevo Yadi shamishyadhvam utasya karma Tad vishvarupam bhajatasu vipram Tapasvinam tvastram matamavatam Svabhajitorthan savidasvatevo Yadi kamishyaditvam utasya karma Ladies? Tat, therefore, Vishwarupam, Vishwarupa, Bhajata, just worship as Guru, Asu, immediately, Vipram, who is a perfect Brahmana, tapasvinam, undergoing great austerities and penances. Twastram, the son of Twasta, Ata, as well as Atmavantam, very independent, Sabbajita, being worshipped, Artan, the interests, Sa, he, Vidyaswate, will execute, Va, of all of you, Yadi, if, Shamishyadvam, you tolerate, Yuta, indeed, Asya, his, karma, activities, to support the Daityas. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O demigods, I instruct you to approach Vishwarup, the son of Twasta, and accept him as your guru. He is pure and very powerful Brahman, undergoing austerity and penances. Please, by your worship, he will fulfill your desires, provided you tolerate his being inclined to the side of the demons. So Lord Brahma is advising the demigods to get out of their dilemma. So he gives them this formula to go to Vishwarup, the son of Twasta. Purport. Lord Brahma advised the demigods to accept the son of Twasta as their spiritual master, although he was already always inclined toward benefiting the asuras. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So the demigods are in trouble. Demigods have a very powerful responsibility. Under the guidance of Indra, they have to maintain the universal affairs. They are called Angas, they're called limbs of the Supreme Lord for the maintenance of the universe. And therefore they have to see to the climatary arrangements according to the laws of material nature. But the demigods are very powerful personalities. Prabhupada said the demigods are so powerful. He made an example. I kind of like that bhajan, but not right now. The demigods are so powerful. Prabhupada made the statement, you see a little insect walking, and if you have the power to just finish the insect, you could just step on it and finish, right? You don't do that because you're devotees, of course. Devotees don't kill anything. But Prabhupada said the demigods can do that to you. They can do that to you. That's how powerful they are. They can step on you like you step on an insect. But because they are devotees of the Lord, they work under the guidance of the Lord. But sometimes they misuse their power. Like anyone who has a lot of power may sometimes become infatuated by that power, thinking the power is coming from them. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that Rasoham Sarvabhuteshu, Rasoham Apsakunteya Prabhasmi Sari Surya Pranava sarvabedeshu sabdike purusham nishu. That verse, the very last line, it's describing Krishna within various characteristics and qualities of this material energy. Sabdike purusham nishu is the last one. It says, I am the ability in all living beings. So whatever abilities, power, influence, position, or situation we may have, it's simply the grace of the Lord. He makes the arrangements according to your desires, but even your desires cannot make you, what we say, successful. You need the grace and mercy and blessings of the Lord, permission. And so the Lord is all-powerful, and He fulfills the desires of everyone by facilitating their needs and their desires. So the demigods have a strong desire to lord it over the material energy, but they do it as a service to Krishna. Even within our Krishna consciousness movement, we find devotees have that tendency to want to control, maybe have a position within the society for the sake of controlling, and that makes them feel important. But they do it as a service to the Lord. So it's bhakti, but it's still mixed with personal interests, personal desires. I want this position, I want this control, I want this situation, because I want it. It gives me satisfaction, it gives me some, what we say, influence over others. And maybe it also gives me a situation where I can get some extra mercy having this position, because then I can do great service for my spiritual master. Just like there was a story in Chicago many years ago where they needed a temple president. The temple president was no longer there, so they needed to find a new temple president. So 3 devotees, who were all quite qualified, came forward for the position of temple president. Now, in those days, if you had a position, Jai Sri Radha Madan Mohan Krishna Balaram, Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Gornitai Prahlad Nrsingadev Ki Jai. In those days, if you had some position in the society, then you could get more association with Srila Prabhupada. So, because Prabhupada would talk to the temple presidents and discuss the temple affairs. So the devotees would like to get that. So everyone wanted temple president. Not so much today, right? There's a joke, there's an ISKCON joke where one donkey is walking along like this. And somebody comes up, Mr. Donkey, do you want to be temple president? So things have changed. Maybe it's still there in some places, but most places nobody wants it anymore. But in those days, 3 devotees wanted the position in Chicago. So one devotee received it, obviously. And the 2 other devotees wanted that, and they were so unhappy that they didn't get that position. They left the temple and started their own temples, which was good because it helped spread Krishna consciousness. They started their own little preaching centers. So because they wanted that position, couldn't get it, and they decided, I'm going to start my own temple and be president. So this was good because it helped spread Krishna consciousness. So that's what it was like. So that demigod mood, the mood of wanting to be in control for Krishna. But what happened was that Indra, being in that position with great power, influence, opulence, and great worship, committed an offense against his guru. There's 2 ways to commit an offense. One is by not doing what you're supposed to do, and another thing is by doing what you're not supposed to do. So there's fence by action and fence by inaction or neglect. So Indra was victimized by offense by neglect. His spiritual master, Brihaspati, came inside while Indra was receiving great worship and honor and glorification. He was seated on his throne along with his wife Sachi, and umbrellas were being over his head, flowers being thrown, eulogies were being glorified. So many beautiful, beautiful expressions of appreciation for Indra and all his power and position. And then the Guru walks in, the Guru of the demigods, Brihaspati. And what happens? Indra is so infatuated by his own worship, he sees his spiritual master, but he does nothing to acknowledge his presence. He simply goes on with the worship. Brihaspati, noting the mentality of Indra, simply turned around and left. Didn't say anything, didn't react in any way, just was very unhappy and left. So Indra came to his senses. He came to his senses. So he came to his senses and he realized he committed a great offense. Then he starts to condemn himself. But what happens is that when there is Guru Avagya, offense to the spiritual master, one loses some influence, some power, some position. So the demigods were powerful, but they had lost that, and the demons attacked and took over the heavenly kingdoms. They were easily defeated. In fact, it was so easy that the demigods didn't even fight. They couldn't even fight against the demons, which they always do and win. Now, having committed that offense, they had lost their power. And now they're in this position. So they want to gain their power back, so they go to Brahma, and Brahma gives them the instructions. Okay, you have to make some amends. You have to worship Vishwarup. Now Vishwarup, he's inclined to the demons. Vishwarup has 3 heads. He's a 3-headed personality. And for one head, he offers homages to the demons, one to the demigods, and one to other living entities. In other words, he does his puja in 3 different ways. And so now they approach him, and you'll go on to see what happens later. And now they ask for his mercy, for him to, give them power, and goes on to explain what happens. And so now, and this is the situation at the present moment. So we'll read on to some of the other verses that come up. The next verse, Sukadeva Goswami continues, thus advised by Brahma and relieved of their anxiety, their feeling relieved, the demigods went to the sage Vishwarup, the son of Twasta. My dear king, they embraced him and spoke as follows. Now, when you have some personal interest at heart, and the person that you need to approach to get that interest fulfilled, you're kind of nice, sweet, a little bit loving, maybe using fancy words. In other words, when there's personal interest at heart, you make an extra effort. There's an extra effort that's being made. So the demigod said, beloved Vishwarup, may there be all good fortune for you. We, the demigods, have come to your ashram as your guests. Please try to fulfill our desires according to the time, since we are on the level of your parents. So now, not only are they requesting, they're saying, you're our son and we're your parents, so son must obey the parents. A little bit of coercion there. O Brahmana, the highest duty of a son, even though he has sons of his own, is to serve his parents. What to speak of a son who is a Brahmana. So we understand, according to human culture, which is Vedic culture, that parents must be respected, honored, and obeyed. That is the duty of those. Kali Yuga has changed that a lot. Both the parents are not qualified to be obeyed, and nobody obeys their parents anyway. So we obey our parents when we like it, and we don't like it, or we argue, and this is Kali Yuga. But here, the Vedic culture is the parents are like gurus. It's mentioned in the Shastras that one of our spiritual teachers is our mother and our father. They are as good as our, what we say, initiating spiritual master. Because they have given us this body and given us direction in life where we have come to the point of having an opportunity to engage in devotional service. So we are grateful and honor parents and take care of parents to the end. Prabhupada wanted that. Sometimes we saw in Western countries, when Prabhupada was preaching there, many of the young boys and girls, they left their family to join Krishna consciousness, and they broke off all connections with their family. And Prabhupada said that you should not neglect your parents. Unless they are against Krishna consciousness, you should take some time and visit your parents and try to encourage them also in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada wanted the parents to become devotees too, not just the children. So the next verse, the Acharya, the spiritual master who teaches all the Vedic knowledge and gives initiation by offering the sacred thread, is the personification of the Vedas. Similarly, a father personifies Lord Brahma, a brother, King Indra, a mother, the planet Earth, and a sister, Mercy. A guest personifies religious principles. An invited guest personifies the demigod, Agni. And all living entities personified Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: according to the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, Atbhavat Sarvabhuteshu, one should observe all living entities to be on the same level as oneself. This means that no one should be neglectful as an inferior, because Paramatma is seated in everyone's body. Everyone should be respected as the temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This verse describes the different ways in which one should respect a guru, a father, brother, a sister, a guest, and so on. Also a mother. So these elements of culture and respects are the basis of the practice of spiritual life. Because without respecting other living entities, no one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with sincere devotion. So respect comes in different forms. As is mentioned here, different categories of persons that we relate to personify different aspects of the culture and the society and the earth too. But in a practical sense, then within the devotional context, there's a verse that's from the 4th canto, 8th chapter. It explains how devotees should honor others. In that verse, it explains that if someone in devotional service is more advanced, then one should serve that person and hear from that person. If someone is on the equal level, one must make friendship. And if someone is in a lesser position, one should show compassion, mercy. In other words, one should try to raise them up by giving them some Krishna consciousness. In other words, now we might look at that and we see within society, we find that these three levels of relationships exist on all levels within the Vaishnava society and within the materialistic society. So how do materialistic persons relate to these three categories. The verse describes that if someone is greater than you, especially if someone is in the same occupation as you, then one feels envy towards that person. One doesn't feel happy to see a more qualified person. If someone is equal, then amongst friends, what do friends do? They tell each other how great they are. Did you know I'm such a good friend? I can do this and I can do that. I'm your friend. In other words, we push our position as being someone's friend by glorifying ourselves. And we want to impress our friends by doing certain things that make them feel, oh, I have such a nice friend. So that's an anartha, that's a deviation. And the last one, if someone is lesser, then what do? Feel good because I'm in a better position, or somehow deride that person, criticize that person, like that. In other words, make that person, what we say, an object of criticism or an object of neglect, either one. Prabhupada gives an interesting definition of nonviolence from the Bhagavad Gita. It's an interesting definition. He says, it's in the 20th the 13th chapter, verses 8 through 12. 8 through 12, 4 verses, describe the 20 items of knowledge. And one of them is nonviolence. So Prabhupada says that nonviolence generally means not to cause harm to the physical or mental body of another person. But actual nonviolence means to take time to raise people away from their suffering. In other words, to be nonviolent means to alleviate other persons who are suffering. And he says that if one does not doing that, then one is violent. So one becomes violent by not helping others who are actually in need of some mercy, some help, some suffering. And we see that in practical society. If someone is being killed or attacked, people will not come to help because they think it's not my business, or if I do, I might get in trouble, something. But that's not human culture. Human culture means if someone's in danger, if one can do something. Just like when Prabhupada was in Australia, we had very, very, very bad public relations when we were in Australia. The government didn't like us, and the news media was criticizing us in different ways. They would stop our harinams and book distribution, sometimes put devotees in jail. So, but still, we were going on. And one day, about 2 doors away from our building, there was a huge fire in the building that was just next to it, a couple doors down. And people were on the roof and inside the building calling for help. So the devotees had been preparing for the Rath Yatra. So they had this huge canopy that they had for Lord Jagannath, for the Rath Yatra. So the devotees came out with the canopy and held it like a net, a big net, and all the devotees held it, and they asked people to jump. So people were jumping from 4 stories, 5 stories high into this canopy. And so many people jumped and their lives were saved. So this made big news. That the Hare Krishnas saved so many people from this burning fire. Our publicity was just like, okay, we like them, they're good people. Yeah, so we'll keep them around. Before it wasn't like that. So, see, if you do something to relieve the suffering of others, even in material society, you're considered to be a great person. Feed the poor, show some compassion to others, open hospitals, or do something. And this is natural, this is normal, this is human, this is actually culture. So when that is seen as like in society, people don't even care about people. And therefore, people are always in difficulty. But the devotee thinks, oh, if I can help someone by preaching Krishna consciousness or doing something, or even helping them in an ordinary way, that's a great opportunity to serve the Lord by serving this person. Like that. So these three levels of... So here, Prabhupada quotes Chanakya Pandit by saying that one should see, this is very difficult, one should see others as they see themselves. What does that mean? There's a statement in the Christian scriptures. It's called, you've heard of the 10 Commandments? In Christianity, they have 10 Commandments. It's very popular in the West. Well, the first commandment is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. That's the first commandment. And the second commandment is to love your brother as yourself. So that is somewhat what we're saying here, is that what is good for me, I should want to give that to others. It takes the form of preaching, takes the form of showing compassion to others. So seeing others means what is good for me in terms of general things, not things that are just selective, but general. In other words, Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai. Not just philosophical teachings, but whatever one can do to show kindness or to help another person when we encounter that, that is Krishna consciousness. When Prabhupada was asked, how can you tell who a devotee is? What is the characteristic of a devotee? What is his outstanding? And Prabhupada said, he's a perfect gentleman. He's a perfect lady. In other words, he gives respects to others. So giving respects to others comes in the form of showing kindness and current concern for the needs of others. And in Krishna consciousness, we do that by what is called preaching, distributing transcendental literature, inspiring others to come to Krishna consciousness. But even on the day-to-day level, in our ordinary day-to-day interaction with others, this mood of seeing others on the same level as oneself allows one not to commit offenses, because it's mentioned here that in the heart of all living beings, Krishna is there. Even in the heart of a little tiny spider. Sometimes we think, oh, spider, go. Yeah, we do that, that's all right. But still, Krishna's in the heart of that little bug. So Krishna's in the heart of all living entities. He's guiding all living entities according to the body that they have. So when we honor another living entity for whatever reason, according to the relationship based on the body, we are honoring Krishna within the heart of that living being. That's why when we pay obeisances, dandavats, we're actually paying obeisances to not only to that living being who is in that body, but to Krishna who's in the heart of that living being also. That is real obeisances. And so, therefore, to see oneself or to see others on the same level of oneself is explained that no one should be seen as inferior. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I'm a devotee and they're not devotees, I'm better. Is that correct? Do we think like that sometimes? I'm better than them. The word better doesn't really correlate with the proper mood. The idea is I'm more fortunate. I'm more fortunate. I have somehow attained the fortune of the mercy of God through my spiritual master. Therefore, let me also somehow or other give that fortune to others. So, devotee may be more fortunate and understand that good fortune, but not better or less. Krishna doesn't like that if one sees themselves better than others. Therefore, in devotional service, what is the mood? The mood is service. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadaka Bunoi Shravanadi Siddhi Chitte Koryo Udoi. Every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna and has a loving relationship with Krishna. And the mood of that relationship is seva. Seva. So that is the basic principle. Here, the demigods are asking Vishwarup to serve them. Why? Because they went to Brahma, and Brahma gave them that advice. But later on, you'll find in this particular pastime, as it plays it out when it goes all the way to Vitrasura, this is the basis of the pastime of Vitrasura, you'll find that what happens is that the demigods are criticized because they are sakama. There's akama and sakama. Kama means desire, and sa means with, and akama means desire without material desire. So the demigods want to keep their position as demigods, and Krishna allows that. But Krishna lets them know that you're not pure devotees. When they were later on, when Indra was fighting with Vitrasura, you'll come to that in the text. Vitrasura was more glorious, although he was a demon, than Indra. He was a devotee at heart within the demon's body. Vitrasura was simply fighting so he could go back home, back to Godhead. And Indra was fighting so he could maintain his position in the heavenly planets. So one was fighting for spiritual attainment, the other one was fighting for material position. So we see here, in this situation here. So there's many interesting points here. And so I'll stop here and see if there's any comments or questions. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for giving a nice instructive class. The question is that, like, as you told, like, one should take care of the parents as much as possible, as Prabhupada also mentioned the purport. Like, but sometimes devotees also said that, like, it may lead to the attachment also. Though we are in a brahmacharya ashram, if we go and take care of the parents and give the time frequently.
If you're a brahmachari and you go home to your mother and she wants to kiss you, what happens? It's a problem, huh? For brahmacharis, it happens. I think you should be respectful and let them know and they should also. But to visit the parents is good for the parents. But if you stay too long, that's a problem. If you stay one day, I used to go see my mother all the time as a sannyasi, and I would stay 3 days, and then I dropped it to 2, and then to 1. But still I went to see her, despite the fact that, I was, in my position. Because she had some inclination towards Krishna consciousness. Although she wasn't practicing anything, she was practicing as a Christian, still she liked Krishna consciousness. So that's good. And many of your parents here in India, are also devotees, either of demigods or one of the incarnations of the Lord. So it's good. And if they become attached to you, which they are, and you become attached to Krishna, then they make spiritual advancement. But you have to be careful not to get too much on the bodily platform. Be friendly, be respectful, like that. And talk about Krishna. They want to talk about, they say, oh, how's your health? Are you getting enough to eat? You look skinny. Here's some money, don't give it to the society, use it for yourself. My mother used to say that here. Every time I give you money, you give it to the society. Keep it for yourself. They say, okay. And then I turn it in anyway. So, parents will be parents, and just the way it is. Now, if they try to take you away from Krishna consciousness, then you can avoid that situation. And then you can maybe write them a letter once in a while. But you don't want to go there if they're going to talk against devotional service or criticize like that. And then you can avoid that. Then you're doing them a favor by not visiting them. That way they don't commit offenses. In Mumbai, the devotees in Chowpatty were joining the ashram. So one brahmachari, he was there. His mother was trying to get him to come home and be a nice boy, get married. And so he wasn't. So his mother came one day and she made a big scene in the temple. She started hollering and saying, "You should come home. You have to come home." And everybody was trying to calm her down. And finally, there was a light socket with a, cord hanging down. There was no light bulb in there. So she said, "If you don't come down, you don't come home, I'm going to stick my finger in the socket. In other words, I'm going to commit suicide." She said that right in front of all the brahmacharis. So everybody got nervous, so the boy went home to save his mother from getting shocked or electrocuted. So after some time he came back again. And then she came again. And then she made another scene. There was another play act, another drama. And she did the same thing again. "I'm going to stick my finger in the socket." And this time nobody said anything. And she didn't do it. So this goes on as in Krishna consciousness as extracurricular activity. Somehow you have to work with that. It's extraneous to devotional service. But if you can make your parents come bring them closer to Krishna, then that's the best.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You can ask the questions in Hindi or Bengali if you want. I was told people don't ask questions
Hare Krishna.
because they don't want to ask in English. So you can ask it in Bengali or Hindi, and then somebody will translate it.
हरे कृष्ण महाराज।
Mm-hmm.
तो आपने बताया कि हर जीव के प्रति मतलब सम्मान करना चाहिए, आदर करना चाहिए। हाँ, तो जो जीव विष प्रयोग करते हैं उनके साथ हम कैसा व्यवहार करें, कैसा आचरण करें? जो जीव मतलब विष प्रयोग करते हैं उनके साथ कैसा आचरण करें?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, as you mentioned that we should respect all living entities. So those living entities who are like those living entities who are poisonous, like snakes and etc., how should we treat them? How should we respect them? mosquito.
Well, there's a verse in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that devotees become happy when snakes and scorpions are killed. So you avoid these living entities because by nature they're envious. What does it mean, an envious animal? Is that for no reason they will attack you. That means they're envious. So you avoid them. If you have to defend yourself, you might find yourself having to kill a snake or a scorpion. And that is not a sin. But generally, we try to avoid, and if we can avoid killing, that's even better. I told the story yesterday how when Bhaktisiddhanta asked the devotees to kill a snake, Srila Prabhupada was curious about why he said that. And then later on he read that verse in the 7th canto. So yeah, we don't go around killing living entities who are snakes and scorpions, but we avoid them. But if it's necessary to defend the life of someone, then that action is okay. It's sanctioned. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Another question, the devotee is asking that as Indra got puffed up due to his position and then he committed offense, so please guide us that how we can always remain in humble position and show our respect to all living entities.
Well, therefore Lord Chaitanya gave us the verse Trinadapi Sunichena Tayorivasa Hishnuna Manina Mamanadena Kirtaniya Sudadahi. So by practicing these qualities, humility, tolerance, giving respects to others, and not be eager for self-respect, by practicing these we can develop the proper mentality. And we should also try to serve the devotees. We should look for opportunities to offer service to the Vaishnavas. If we're in this mood of service all the time, then we will not be in the mood of committing of becoming proud or puffed up. This is the most important thing. Always be in the mood of service. No matter what you're doing or what the situation is, always think, how can I serve in this situation? And then you're in the right consciousness. Just like I'm giving class, so you're serving by hearing. So the more you hear, the more you are serving in this particular. So in each situation, there's an opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
You used to ask a lot of questions. What happened? No questions this year? No? You finished all your questions, huh? Okay. All right. Anything else before we end? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Hari 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 Bol.
Hare Krishna. All devotees, may I have your attention please? So we are very grateful to His Holiness Chandra Mauli Swami Maharaj. He has given a wonderful association to all of us so many days with his ecstatic kirtans and enlightening lectures. Apparently Maharaj came here for treatment, but he came here to actually to treat all of us. So we are very grateful to Maharaj, and tomorrow Maharaj is leaving. So today evening Maharaj is leaving Indore. There is a program in Indore, and tomorrow Maharaj will leave for the place. So we request Maharaj to please visit again and again to cure all of us, and we express our gratitude by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Holiness Chandra Mauli Swami Maharaj ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.